All right, everyone, here we go. April STAAR. It's the season. Here's a copy of the email I'm about to send out to y'all regarding the STAAR exam, which is English 1 will be on April 5th, English 2 will be on April 7th. There's going to be a lot of movement in the building that day. First of all, I should thank you guys for doing such a great job all the time with testing. Things wouldn't run smoothly without your patients' help, diligence, and flexibility. So I'm just going to review the email. There's a couple of action items for all teachers. You got an orange paper today regarding preparing the Chromebooks for testing. That responsibility will fall on the classroom teacher. Please follow the instructions on the orange paper. It says that it was due Wednesday 3:31, but please get it done by Thursday 3:31 and return it to Miss Baker in 11:02. Second, you got a fluorescent yellow paper today with a list of students by first period teacher, of where and when they test. Please start informing your students. They should know already that they're testing, but this is just a little extra reminder for you and them. Second yellow bullet here. This is for all staff involved in testing, including monitors, counselors, paras, AP, test administrators, and room relocators as well. You're technically involved in testing, so you should pay attention to the presentation. So that's a link to the presentation. There'll be a link to the video coming up, and then there is a quiz, 7-point quiz. Please make sure that you complete that by noon on April 4th. If you're new to STAAR testing, new to teaching, or new to Texas, you're required to complete an online training called Active Monitoring for Test Administrators. It's only 20 minutes. It's accompanied with a downloadable PowerPoint, so I suggest doing that. You can access that by clicking on the link called the Learning Management System. That's our all-in-one training system for this all-state test now. Send proof of completion of your training to me by Monday, April 4th. You can simply take a screenshot of your course history that it's completed or print out a certificate, and then stop by the testing room prior to the testing day if you're testing one or both days, and just kind of help review everything that's in your bin, and we can just do any last minute questions. Everybody in the building was trained for the STAAR manual of security and the manual. You signed your oaths already, so we don't need to do a really long presentation. But if you want to review that presentation, there's a link. And lastly, here's the link to the big plan for English 1 and 2. There's many tabs, and we're going to open that. And I'm going to just grab that from here. So we got a couple of things going on here. We have many tabs. We have English 1, which is going to be on the 5th. English 2, which will be on the 7th. Student tested their locations and where they're supposed to be. Here's a legend of what every job is kind of just the description of it, which you'll see here, back here, where your job is. There's some lunch reassignments. There's no slide in the presentation, so I'm going to talk about lunch now. Anybody who's originally a D lunch tester will be reassigned for the 5th and the 7th, both lunches on the same day. Please review which lunch you're getting moved to. So you're going from D to C or something similar. And that's about it. The backup tab isn't really for you guys, but it's there. So let's say I am Rebecca Flores. So I'm going to click on the sheet here and make sure I do Control F. I'm going to type in Flores, and I'm going to go tab by tab and see where my name appears. So here, it's one of one. It's on here once. So Rebecca Flores is a room relocator on the English 1 day, and you can see where she's supposed to go second, third, fourth, and fifth periods. Okay, her room number is 1211, so I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to delete Flores and go 1211, and I'll see my room is on here one time, and Miss Hearn is testing in my room. So I'd suggest Miss Hearn and Miss Flores to connect prior to testing day to just discuss anything special about the room or any concerns or questions, and then so you can do that. And then you can go to the next tab, and Flores 1211 is already up, so I'm going to look at how her room is affected. Okay, I noticed that in 1211, she's testing herself, and there's no need for room relocation that day. Obviously, if I put 1211 on here, it's going to show up a lot. because she has first period kids. She obviously has 60 of them. So you could just kind of go through here if you want. That's kind of a tedious task in this form. And then the legend, whatever your job is, just go ahead and review what that is. And then the lunch reassignments, as I already said. All right, moving into the presentation. Move me down here. All right, let's get back to the front. All right, the blue link there is to the testing plan if you haven't opened it already. As always, these short trainings are no replacement for reading the manual. If you are a test administrator, you will get a manual in your mailbox by the end of the day on Tuesday. Please enjoy it as a gift from me. Again, you pause the video if you want to read what all the different duties are, what they're supposed to be doing, the people are supposed to be doing. Up here, there's a link again if you want to open up that sheet. Security at a glance. As always, there's two types of testing irregularities, serious and procedural. So example, procedural will be over or under timing a test or not giving a student accommodation. Serious would be assisting a student on an exam question or changing student answers or logging into their test for them, which you should never do. Students are only allowed to log in to their own test. So please review this prior to testing and let me know if you have any questions. Test administrator roles and responsibilities on page 23 in your manual. Maintaining the security of the test materials until returned to the coordinator. Preparing and distributing test materials in the classroom for each administration as instructed. Implementing the process and procedures stated in the manuals. Monitoring and maintaining test security. Reporting any suspicious or suspected violation of test security. And preparing test materials for return to the testing coordinator. Our expectations at Tomball High School is that the person whose room is being used for testing prepares the room. Like I said, it would always be nice if the teacher who's testing in that room would visit with the teacher who owns the room and just make sure everything's in check. You need to have a working clock, unobstructed walkways, desks should be facing, or tables should all be facing in the same direction. There should be a space available on the board for the teacher to write what they're required to write. Doors will be unlocked in the morning by the custodial staff, but the windows should be unobstructed. We need to be able to see in, and make sure that when you leave the room for testing that it's in the same condition that you arrived to it at. Time limit policies for STAAR. The English 1 and 2 are a 5-hour exam. Over and under timing is a procedure irregularity. As I said, you cannot rush your students. Or only give them 4 hours. 5 hours is the number. Students with extra time are allowed to test through the end of the regular school day. For everyone giving the exam, page 41 to 44 in your manual, you should review those couple of pages. It's just instructions about the call-out boxes and what you say and when you say it. Please do that prior to testing. Here's just a little example. There's the larger boxes, the say boxes, and then there's the narrow boxes that are kind of more about information for you and things that you can say to the students. Before you start reading the instructions, you can distribute the student test tickets, scratch paper, pencil, and then headsets and any other implements they're allowed to use during testing. If it's in the bin you picked up in the room, you can use it on the test for whichever students it's assigned to. One thing I don't want you to do is lay test tickets on the desk for when students arrive. That doesn't make any sense to me. Right before testing is ready to go, you should have them all ready to just easily pass out to the students. Again, repeating myself, you are only allowed to say the say directions, which start on page 63 for all online testing. It's the same instructions for all 5 STAAR subjects. You're going to read aloud word for word the materials printed in bold type and preceded by the word say. You may repeat directions as many times as needed. The materials in italics is information meant for you and should not be read aloud to students. There's 2 different kinds of materials that you're going to have. Secure materials, which are online assessments. That's like when the student is logged into the computer, that's considered an online assessment. Their test ticket, the online session ID, and scratch paper and graph paper, anything that's been written on is considered secure. Non-secure materials are pencils, highlighters, blank scratch paper, and manuals. Seating charts, testing rosters, and dictionaries. Now, seating charts and testing rosters have a lot of information written on them, but the state does not consider them secure materials, but it is still something that needs to be returned to the testing room. Online testing tickets and session IDs will be color coded. Basically, the session ID card is the new test book, which is the same for everybody. Students will need their TSDS. The first name as it is written on their test ticket needs to be typed in. So the students make them that mistake of typing in just one of the names they prefer in case they have two names. But if a student is struggling, double check that first name, and date of birth, and TSDS before you start saying that the student can't access their test. Session ID sheets will contain the codes students need to access their assigned subjects. To avoid students from prematurely logging into a test, we want to start not showing the session ID until we start reading directions and it says it in the directions. So once you get to that part, which you should have already read and know when it's coming, you should have that session ID ready to just tape up on the board for them to see. Test tickets and session IDs will be color coded. So if it's an orange test ticket, it's an orange session ID. How to log into the secure test browser. So students will open the Chromebook. You do not log in. You go to the bottom where it says apps. You're going to click secure test browser. It is second from the bottom. You don't want to go to the other ones that we use for Eduphoria or College Board. They are not the same. This one is called Secure Test Browser. On day one of testing, you may have to, after it starts loading, you may have to choose Texas from the drop-down menu. You may or may not have to. And then make sure that the app fully loads to the student login screen with the 3 boxes. You want to make sure that students aren't choosing practice tests or anything like that, because then they won't be taking the real thing. A couple suggestions for test day, like regardless of the Chromebooks, always arrive early, be ready, stay calm, and breathe. You got this. The sooner you get there, the better you're going to be when the students arrive. Get all the Chromebooks out on the desks, opened, and click on the app. Get that going so that when the students come in, we're not troubleshooting. If you have any issues, we'll know early. Once that app comes to the screen for where they log in, you can close the computer. And one little trick that some people do is use the number on the computer to correspond to the attendance roster, and you tell the students go sit at computer 4, sit at computer 7, because they're number 4 on the list. So you can do that. It's a little trick that we use. Students with accommodations, anybody that will be testing students with accommodations will check their bin out for me, and we will review it prior to them leaving so they understand all that's involved. Breaks. This time around for English 1 and 2, it's a 5-hour test. We are not taking a scheduled break, or we're not doing lunch early either. We're strongly encouraging students to bring their own snacks and to take a break when they're ready to take a break. We will have some snacks available in the hallway for students who don't bring them. We're not advertising that yet. We're just encouraging students to bring their own at this time. When they want to eat their snack, because of the noise, they should step outside of the room and eat it silently. Any student who's not eating their snack silently will be asked to re-enter the room and just continue testing. That break will not stop the clock because it's not a pre-planned break for everybody. The only thing that stops the clock is a medical break, emergency situations, or consolidating rooms, or a planned lunch, which we're not doing this time. Students cannot make a decision in their own room to take a break all together, kumbaya. That's a big no-no. We do not have a pre-planned break this time. Just students will be doing it on their own. Seating charts and attendance rosters. There's always one roster, and there's 3 things that you have to do on it. You're going to take attendance in the column that says present or absent. We really only need absent checked. You're going to make a seating chart according to the number of their student on the roster, and you're going to put their start and stop time on the test, on the roster. Up at the top, there's a little line that says start time. It should be the same for almost everybody, and stop time, which won't be the same, but the stop time for the total room should be recorded there. So that's when everybody's done. But individual stop times should be recorded in the column that says booklet ID. Okay, if you have a student that is brought into your room and they've been read directions and they're ready to go, maybe they came in 30 minutes late, please indicate on the roster what their start and stop time was, and on the board for anybody who comes in to relieve you. Um, those rosters will stay with you the entire time to control your materials and account for them. And then an administrator will come around and pick up your absent student test tickets. Along with this, we're talking about the expected time to start. We expect you to start reading directions, hopefully at around 7:45. Students should be in their rooms by 7:30. They've been doing a really good job of just getting in there and getting done. I wouldn't hold up a room for one or two students. And 7:45 should be our goal start time to start reading instructions, and then we'll go from there. Um, any student who comes to your room after you've started reading instructions, you should send them to 1265, the testing room, and we'll take care of them. We may read the directions and drop them back into your room. Pausing student tests. Students, if they're going to go to the restroom or take a break or even take a little brain break and put their head down, they should pause their test. Teachers do not pause the test. When they pause the test, the screen will go blank. We shouldn't, what monitors will be looking for when they're coming around is like a student's computer wide open with a question and no student at the desk. That means they didn't pause their test. So make sure that when you're monitoring that you have the students do that. After 30 minutes, the student will get logged out and they will need the session ID again, but almost no student should be in that situation that they're taking a break for longer than 30 minutes. Test morning, as always, you're going to put the signs on the doors and please complete them completely. I see a lot of blank ones come back, but please make sure that you're completing those. School-wide emergencies, if we have an alarm that's going to send us outside, please make sure that the only thing that you're going to do is you're going to grab your roster and get your students out. Do not bring Chromebooks, do not bring your testing bin, do not bring a test book ever, your roster, and your students. That's it. This is the only time you can abandon your materials. When you get outside, make sure that you account for the students that you have and that you take attendance again and make sure that you're monitoring the students so they're not speaking about the exam or mixing with students that are non-testers. And we already spoke about late arriving students, so I'm not going to do that again. And that's the end of the presentation. Remember, there's a quiz that you have to do. Here it is. It's 7 points. I wish you luck. I hope you know it. My favorite, there's some answers right there. I don't want you to see those. But do not forget to complete the quiz. That is showing that you did pay attention to the presentation. And have a great day. Please ask if you have any questions at all.